Hey everyone, it's Lesley Oman here from Hungry Heffy Crafts, and I'm really excited that I am over on the Gerda Steiner Designs blog again today, having a little guest designer spot. And today I'm creating this, I guess it's like a romantic card featuring the fall mice. These little guys are so adorable. I love animals of any shape and kind, and these instantly grabbed my attention, and I knew that I wanted to create a card that was a Valentine's card. So I'm taking a piece of watercolor cardstock here, and I've cut it to 11 inches by 4 1/4, and I'm actually going to be colouring straight onto the front of the card. So I'm using some post-it tape to mask off the back of my card, and that means it'll stay nice and clean and fresh and won't get any ink or anything on it. I'm going to prep my front of my card with a powder tool and then emboss this background stamp. This is one that I had in my craft room. It's from Hero Arts and it's just words. It actually is called Friends Defined, but when I have everything all stamped and inked and things, you won't really be able to see or read the text. So it's just really to create some texture. So I am inking up my stamp with my Versamark ink, my clear embossing ink, and then I'll use some clear embossing powder to sprinkle that over the top. Once my heat tool is nice and hot, I'll melt all of those powder crystals so I have a nice embossed image. And I can move over now to inking this background. So I'll put my post-it note tape back in place and reach for my distress inks. I'm using 3 different colours today, and I've chosen some pinks and a purple tone to create a blended background. At the very top of my card, I'm going to have spun sugar, which is a really light pink. And then in the middle section, I've got picked raspberry, and at the bottom, I'm adding some purple tones with shaded lilac. Because my card is covered in that embossed image, I do have to work quite hard at this and press quite hard with my foam applicator. It did take a while, so I have sped up the video a little bit, as you can see, but with a little bit of work and elbow grease, I managed to get it all blended together nicely. There we go. So now over to my stamping. I'm going to be watercoloring these little guys today. So I'm going to use my Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I've got a couple of scraps of watercolor cardstock here, which is the same cardstock that I use for the basis of my card. So I'll stamp these 2 little guys, and I'm going to use my Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolors. I'm using the wet on wet technique, which means I take a paintbrush and wet the area first of all, and then drop in some of the paint colors. This gives a really nice soft muted finish to the card, and later on when I want to add some shadows, I will dry my project with the heat tool and then go in with a wet paintbrush on top of a dry project, and that way you can get harsher lines and use that to your advantage. So I'm building up the layers and just working with these, and that's another reason why I like to use the watercolor cardstock. It is a lot more robust, especially when using your paints. On a side note, do you like my little foxy mug? Isn't it the cutest? I got this from my mummy for Christmas, and it actually looks quite like a bear in the video, but it is a fox, and I thought he would be perfect for my paintbrushes. So I'm nearly finished these little guys, and once I'm happy with them, I'll leave them to the side and make sure they're nice and dry before I fussy cut them out. So this guy here, he actually looks like he should be holding something behind him. So I've taken one of my heart dies, and I'm going to create my own element to add on the card. Once again, with a scrap of watercolor cardstock, I have taped down my heart die, wet the inside area with a wet paintbrush, and then dropped some of the coordinating colors of paint, so some pinks and purples in there. You get this really soft muted feel, and it works perfectly with my background. So now I'm going to add an element for my greeting. I've cut this thin scalloped rectangle using this larger rectangle die. First I cut a rectangle, then slid the cardstock along to cut it again, and I'm going to show you exactly how I did that because I want this actually to be narrower. I'm taking some post-it tape and marking how long I want it to be. And then I'll nestle all those bumps into the die again and stick this down in place, make sure it's nice and secure to the die. So I'll only cut along this right hand edge. So let's run that through the Cuttlebug and I get a nice narrow white scalloped rectangle. I wanted to add some contrast, so I've got some dark grey cardstock here, but I didn't have enough left to cut out a full rectangle. So I'm cutting it twice with my scraps, and it won't actually really matter because the open ends will be tucked underneath that white section. And I'm going to do the same for the hearts. I want to have a nice mat on it using the same grey cardstock. So I'll need to use my scraps for this as well. And I'm tracing around the outside edge of the die, which is slightly larger than the cut line, so it works perfectly for this. So there is a little bit of gap here at the bottom, but it'll be covered by the little mouse, so I'm not worried about that. So he's going to go on the right. But first let's stick down my frame, and I'll use a glue pen for that. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but I did trim a section off the left of the card because the background stamp doesn't go all the way across, and also I do want my scallop rectangle panel to overhang the edge slightly. Let's pop this bottom section on, and I've used my post-it note tape as a guide to make sure that it's all lined up. Of course you can use a ruler. But before I stick on this panel, I want to add my greeting. There is a greeting in the same stamp set, which is the Fall Mice stamp set from Gerda Steiner Designs. And it says, "Sending you love and blessings." And I thought that was really cute and perfect for this. So I've used a coordinating dark grey ink, and it was a dye ink. So very, very quickly, I sprinkled that with some clear embossing powder to get a nice raised image. I've added some foam underneath that white panel. And now I'll stick my mouse onto my love heart with a glue dot. And before I stick down this panel, I wanted to add a little bit of colour. So I'm using the Spun Sugar Distress Ink colour just to add a little pop of pink in the middle there. To adhere my heart, I've put foam on the top section, and I'll put a little bit of glue tape on the bottom so I can stick this on here. And then I can add my cute little peekaboo mouse at the top. To finish off, I will darken up the eyes with a black glaze pen and add a few embellishments. I've got a little wooden heart here, which I think would be cute, and also some adhesive pearls. Here's a closer look at some of the elements on the card. And be sure to check out Gerda Steiner Designs for more of their awesome products. Here's a couple more of my videos to take a look if you have a moment. And you can always visit me over at Hungry Heffy Crafts or follow me on social media by looking for Hungry Heffy. That's it for today, guys. Have a great day. Bye.